Gabriela is currently a final year doctoral student in literary studies at UNSP University Brazil and in a co-awarded PhD in English literature at this university. Since 2015, she has been researching medieval literature and topics such as the supernatural, feminism, and the monstrous feminine. Her present project analyzes female monstrosity, particularly in characters who are mothers in medieval romances from English and French origins. Her presentation today explores what exactly a monstrous mother is and where we can find them in medieval literature. She brings some examples of characters and narratives and hopes to inspire viewers to question their understanding of maternity, and social anxieties when looking towards what medieval authors explored in their writing. Gabriela's presentation today is called Monstrous Mothers in Medieval Romances. Gabriela, are you ready?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you, Kai, for the introduction. If you take a look at this image of a mother, you might find something peculiar about her. If you said wings, you are correct. This is not a likely look for mothers to have, but in my research, I found at least two that have them. So my research focuses on monstrous and supernatural maternity in characters from medieval romances from texts around the 12th to the 14th century, either from French or Middle English origin. These characters are representative of medieval anxieties surrounding women's bodies and authority during the Middle Ages. In many medieval romances, the mother can establish a closer relationship with the supernatural, exhibited either by her body, her offspring, or her contact with elements of witchcraft. Focusing on what medieval audiences and authors believed about maternity and its connection with the monstrous and supernatural, my thesis aims to understand how these elements of female monstrosity are demonstrated and recognizable in the figure of the mother through different medieval literary characters, and what are the relationships between these elements and female sexuality, gender, and even social policies, which were very representative in medieval romances. So my work is not a comprehensive analysis of all cases that have supernatural maternity in medieval literature. Instead, I have opted to focus on narratives that relate to different anxieties pertaining the feminine medieval writings, such as transgressions of the body and consequences of the supernatural, where the medieval monster mother becomes an important figure. So the key texts, they are separated in 4 categories. The first one is the mother with the monstrous body, where we can find the fairy Melusine, or the mother of Richard Coeur de Lion, which is Queen Cassiodorian. These texts are analogs to each other, and each feature a mother whose body is transformed through the narrative. The second category is supernatural pregnancies, where they feature cases where a mother is human, but a contact with or union with a demonic supernatural being, most cases unconsensual, produces a magical heir such as Merlin, Sir Gauthur, and even Alexander. Yes, Alexander the Great had a magical birth. Now, then I look at stepmothers, not the wicked ones from fairy tales, but they also like to curse people. We have texts where stepchildren are transformed by their stepmothers, such as William of Palerney, also known as William and the Werewolf, and the marriage of Sir Gawain and Dame Ragnall, one of the many, many Lovely Lady tales. And finally, we have the witch mother, such as the Red Knight's mother from Sir Percival, or Medea, who you might know, how she is characterized in the Confessio Amantis. Medea, who famously murdered her children, which is monstrous in itself. But what does that mean in a literary context? Yes, why study these characters? How are they different than any other female monster in medieval literature? And believe me, we have many. Well, for starters, when we think of a mother, we have an image of a nurturing and protective being. Many of these mothers are very nurturing. In fact, sometimes their breast milk is what passes their magical abilities to their children. However, a variety of theological and medical discussions have shaped the understanding of the female body during the medieval period, which were often transcribed to the imaginary ideas of medieval authors and their audiences. These ideas worked as the basis of the creation of the monster mother characters. So the mother body would challenge ideas of fear and horror towards women's bodies in the medieval time. And these ideas can be seen even till this day. Julia Kristeva has famously discussed it on the impact of abjection towards menstruation or childbirth and body changes. The mother represents this change in nature as the body needs to adapt in order to create life. It's through the connection with the unconscious and abject that these power causes repulsion and terror to the masculine. I argue that the authority granted to the dynastic supernatural mother is her greatest source of power in the narrative. Much of the fear found in the monstrous mothers would then be the fear of female authoritarian power that surpasses male laws. And the word monster comes from the Latin monstrum, which means a warning or a sign. Therefore, what is the monstrous mother warning us against? Is it against the horrors of childbirth and the pain, the ever-changing bodies of women through time? Is there something that these authors cannot understand from their perspective, which leads them to imagine the worst? And these characters are not always equivalent to antagonistic figures. The exploration of the otherness in monsters in medieval narratives invite us to understand how their monstrosity will be elaborated in medieval female characters when they have already monstrous aspects and play a role in some way to the supernatural and magical. And my interest for this topic came vastly from my master's research, where I researched on the figure of the hero in Beowulf. But everyone saw, my supervisors included, that I was much more interested in Grendel's mother, who is often a more overlooked monster than her son in the narrative. And I usually get asked why I have chosen this topic and why I decided to study medieval literature. And besides being deeply into fantasy from a young age because of influence such as Tolkien, who also translated Beowulf, I have learned how medieval writings would often feature female characters that challenge the natural order of what is a female behavior. So, and I have always been interested when women misbehave, being in media, in literary texts, whatever, and how and why these transgressions are represented in narratives. What it takes for you to be considered a monster. The female body has always been and continues to be controversial. So by exploring these transgressions, how these transgressions are interpreted and the causes for their appearance, we can better understand the culture and imagination of the medieval mind and how also these ideas have been carried over to our century as well. I'm sure you will find many interesting aspects in these characters, and not just the mothers, of course. I hope that by sharing a bit of my research, I can inspire you to look for medieval writings that would often challenge our understanding of a particular topic. Medieval literature is so vast and so fascinating that I know firsthand that when you dip your toes into its waters, you will soon find yourself into the most fantastical of worlds. Thank you very much.